A stone block in Bolivia was cut with a precision that modern machines would struggle to replicate. This is the core of the Puma Punku mystery, a site that forces us to rewrite what we think is possible for ancient civilizations. By the end of this exploration, you will see history not as a simple timeline, but as a puzzle with missing pieces of profound ingenuity. How did builders without metal tools achieve micrometer-perfect surfaces on some of the hardest stone on Earth? And why does their work look more like advanced engineering than ancient masonry? What does it truly mean when the past leaves behind a technology we still cannot fully explain? The true scale of the mystery begins long before a single stone was cut. Stand before the ruins today, and you are looking at two distinct types of stone. The foundations are a deep red sandstone, heavy and enduring, but the most famous pieces, the ones with those impossible cuts and angles, are made of andesite. This is a volcanic stone, incredibly dense and hard, a material that would wear down modern carbide-tipped tools in a matter of hours. And here we find the first, often overlooked, layer of the puzzle. This wasn't local rubble. Geological analysis has shown this specific andesite came from a quarry on the Copacabana Peninsula, a site perched on the shores of Lake Titicaca, over 10 kilometers away. Now picture that journey. 10 kilometers is not a great distance on a modern highway, but this is the high-altitude altiplano, a rugged landscape, and we are not talking about small stones. Some of these andesite blocks weigh well over 100 tons. That is the equivalent of a large commercial jet engine, multiplied many times over. The conventional understanding of the cultures in this region tells us they had no wheeled vehicles, no domesticated beasts of burden like horses or oxen, and no evidence of complex pulley systems. So how do you move a 100-ton block of the hardest stone on Earth across 10 kilometers of rough terrain? The logistics are staggering. It implies a level of social organization, engineering knowledge, and sheer manpower that historians struggle to attribute to a pre-Columbian society. This is where the enigma of Puma Punku truly takes root. The mystery isn't merely in the final, polished product. It is embedded in the very first step, in a supply chain that appears from our current historical model to be an impossibility. Before we can even ask how they cut these stones with such precision, we must first ask a more fundamental question: how did they get them here at all? That logistical puzzle of moving 100-ton stones is only the first chapter. The second, perhaps even more baffling mystery, reveals itself the moment you touch the stone. Archaeologists and engineers who have visited Puma Punku often describe a single, startling sensation. When you run your hand across the surface of a finished andesite block, it feels as smooth as glass. This is not an exaggeration. The finish is consistent, cold, and unnervingly perfect, showing none of the expected tool marks. In every other ancient site, from the pyramids of Egypt to the temples of Greece, you can see the story of the craft. You can find the individual strikes of a chisel, the sweeping arcs left by abrasive sand, the subtle imperfections that speak of human hands at work. At Puma Punku, those stories are absent. The surfaces are silent. They offer no clue, no fingerprint of their creation. This flawless polish on andesite, a stone harder than granite, presents a technical problem that modern stonemasons still debate. To achieve such a finish today, you would need industrial machinery with diamond-tipped blades and polishing pads. You would need precision grinding tools that operate with micrometer accuracy. The alternative theory some researchers propose is a form of chemical softening, using a plant-based solution to temporarily alter the stone's surface for working, a knowledge completely lost to history. The Tiwanaku culture, to whom the site is traditionally attributed, had access to bronze tools which are utterly incapable of this kind of work on andesite. So we are left with surfaces that speak of a manufacturing philosophy obsessed with perfection. This wasn't just about making a block that fit. This was about achieving an ideal, a seamless join, and a mirror-like plane that served a purpose we can only guess at. It hints at a profound, possibly scientific understanding of materials, a way of conversing with stone that we have yet to rediscover. And if the surfaces offer no answers, then we must look deeper into the very shapes they were forming. The geometry of Puma Punku is where the mystery shifts from the tactile to the truly incomprehensible. That mirror-smooth surface is only the beginning of the geometric puzzle. Look closer at the edges where these stones meet, and you will find the third and perhaps most telling mystery: the precision of the right angles and flatness. In a modern machine shop, the most critical tool for ensuring accuracy is called a granite surface plate. It is a massive slab of stone ground to an almost perfectly flat plane, used to calibrate all other measuring instruments. The craftsmen of Puma Punku, it seems, were building their own version of surface plates, but on a monumental scale and over 1,000 years ago. The stone blocks at the site feature interior angles that are not merely close to 90 degrees. They are exactly 90 degrees. The flatness of the surfaces is not simply smooth to the touch. When measured with modern laser tools, their tolerances are consistent within fractions of a millimeter across spans of stone several meters long. This is not a happy accident. This is a repeatable, deliberate standard. For engineers who study the site, this consistency is the most compelling clue. Achieving one perfect right angle on a single block is difficult. Achieving the same exact angle with the same exact flatness across dozens of separate blocks implies something revolutionary. It suggests the use of master templates or jigs. Think of it like a cookie cutter, but for architecture. A single, precisely formed pattern used over and over to guarantee every piece is identical. This is a concept of mass production and standardization we associate with the industrial age, not with a society using stone and bronze tools. This geometric perfection was not for decoration. It served a critical, functional purpose, one that becomes stunningly clear when you see how these stones were meant to fit together. The flawless flatness allowed two massive blocks to join without any visible seam. The perfect right angles created a structural integrity that could withstand immense forces. They were building with a language of precision that we are only now beginning to fully appreciate, and it was all leading to a single, ingenious architectural system. This geometric precision served a single, brilliant purpose, one revealed in the fourth and most visually stunning mystery of Puma Punku: the complex interlocking joints and grooves. The stones here are not simple blocks. They are components of a giant, ancient puzzle, designed to lock together with a sophistication that still takes our breath away. The most famous examples are the so-called H-blocks, massive andesite forms that look like giant, stylized letter Hs, but look closer. Each arm of the H is not a solid rectangle. It is a precise, multi-level assembly point. The stones are carved with a series of intricate notches, T-shaped slots, and deep, rectangular indentations. These are not decorations, they are engineered connection points. When fitted together with matching stones, they would have created a three-dimensional grid, a monolithic framework where every piece was locked to its neighbor on multiple sides. Think of it not as stacking bricks, but as assembling a sophisticated stone Lego set, where each connection is designed to bear immense load and resist movement from any direction. This was not simple stacking, it was a form of ancient anti-seismic design. The Altiplano is a seismically active region, prone to powerful earthquakes. These interlocking joints, cut with that same micrometer precision, would have allowed the entire structure to flex and sway during a tremor, dissipating energy throughout the framework, rather than cracking and collapsing. The stones would have held each other in place, a unified system far stronger than the sum of its parts. The precision required to cut these complex, load-bearing features so they would align perfectly under hundreds of tons of stone speaks to an almost intuitive understanding of structural engineering, principles that would not be formally developed and written down for centuries. It pushes us to consider the builders not as primitive stone workers, but as profound masters of their material and their environment, solving problems with a knowledge we are only now beginning to decode. And if the joints themselves are a marvel, then the tools that must have created them descend even further into the realm of the inexplicable. The interlocking joints reveal a mastery of macro-scale engineering, but to truly grasp the depth of their skill, you must look at the smallest details. Carved into the faces of many andesite slabs are networks of shallow, narrow channels. These are not decorative etchings or the accidental scars of time. They are the fifth mystery of Puma Punku, a testament to a precision that operates on an entirely different level. These channels, often just a few millimeters deep and wide, run in perfectly straight, parallel lines across the hard stone. In some blocks, they form intricate geometric grids or precise circular patterns. The consistency is unnerving. Each groove maintains the exact same depth and width from one end to the other, as if drawn by a steady, mechanical hand. This is not the work of a craftsman chiseling freehand. The variation would be visible, the lines would waver. Here, they do not. This repeatable, micro-scale perfection points directly to the use of a guiding apparatus. Imagine a primitive but highly effective milling machine, a tool that could hold a cutting implement in a fixed position and slide it along a track to ensure a perfectly straight, uniform cut. The presence of such features suggests the builders had moved beyond simple hand tools. They had developed jigs and fixtures, a technology for controlling their work on a minute scale. Some researchers have proposed a practical purpose for these channels, suggesting they were slots designed to hold metal clamps, perhaps to secure stone panels together or to attach decorative facings. Yet this theory only deepens the enigma. Extensive excavation at Puma Punku has yielded no significant cache of such metal clamps. If they existed, they were removed with a thoroughness that itself is mysterious. So we are left with these perfect, empty tracks, a solution in search of a problem. Their existence, however, is the crucial clue. This micro-precision is the natural companion to the macro-perfection of the right angles and flat surfaces. It shows a holistic, systematic philosophy. The builders applied the same rigorous standards of measurement and control whether they were shaping a 100-ton block or incising a line 1 millimeter deep. This consistency across scales is what truly challenges our historical timelines. It speaks of a methodology, a school of thought, where precision was the fundamental principle, not an occasional achievement. It forces a question that lingers in the silent, geometric lines. If they could do this, what else did they know? The micro-scale channels are not the only small details that defy explanation. Carved into the hardest andesite, you can find something even more perplexing, the sixth mystery of Puma Punku. The drilled holes and boreholes, scattered across various stone fragments, are small, perfectly cylindrical perforations. Some are shallow depressions, others tunnel completely through the stone. When examined closely, their characteristics are startling. The walls of these holes are straight and parallel, with a consistent diameter from top to bottom. There is no tapering, no sign of a tool wobbling or wandering as it cut. This is the unmistakable signature of a drill that maintained perfect alignment and steady pressure. Now consider the conventional method for drilling stone in antiquity, the bow drill. A craftsman would use a hollow reed or copper tube, add abrasive sand and water, and spin it back and forth with a bow. This method can eventually wear a hole, but the result is almost never a clean cylinder. The abrasive sand causes the hole to widen at the top, creating a conical shape, and the manual, reciprocating motion leaves irregular, striated walls. The holes at Puma Punku do not show these telltale signs. Their clean, uniform geometry suggests something far more advanced. It implies a drilling mechanism that could apply continuous, unidirectional rotation and maintain a fixed point of contact with immense stability. Some researchers speculate this could have been achieved with a form of lathe, where the stone itself was rotated against a fixed cutting point. Others propose the use of tubular drills made of a harder material, perhaps even using a mechanical advantage system to ensure consistent downward force. To replicate such a hole in andesite with primitive tools would be a task of monumental patience, and yet the results here are not the work of a single, painstaking effort. They appear repeatedly, a standardized feature. This moves the conversation beyond simple craftsmanship. It points to a specialized tool, a piece of technology designed for a specific, precision task. The presence of these boreholes, often in conjunction with the geometric channels and perfect surfaces, paints a picture of a workshop not unlike a modern machine shop, equipped with dedicated tools for cutting, milling, and drilling stone to exact specifications. Each perfect hole is a silent witness to a process we have yet to fully comprehend, a single note in a larger symphony of lost engineering. And if the tools are a mystery, then the ultimate purpose of the entire structure becomes an even greater enigma. What were they building that demanded such an obsessive, multifaceted precision? Each perfect hole and geometric cut points toward a single, revolutionary idea. When you survey the scattered stones of Puma Punku, you are not looking at a chaotic collapse. You are looking at a kit of parts. This is the seventh mystery, the compelling evidence of prefabrication and modular design. The uniformity is the key. Those identical H-blocks with their matching T-slots and notches are not one-off artistic statements. They are standardized components. The stone blocks with the same precise angles and the same complex channels appear again and again, as if stamped from a single template. This suggests a process that feels strikingly modern. The stones were likely shaped and finished at a dedicated workshop, perhaps near the quarry where conditions could be controlled. They were crafted to exact specifications, with the absolute certainty that a block made in one place would fit perfectly with a block made months later, miles away. Only then were they transported to the site for final assembly. This is modular construction. It is the same principle used today to build everything from skyscrapers to spacecraft, where parts are manufactured in a factory to tight tolerances and then shipped for rapid, precise assembly. For an ancient culture, this implies a staggering leap in organizational thought. It requires not just skilled artisans but master planners. It demands detailed blueprints or schematics, a shared system of measurement so accurate that it could be communicated across distance and time. It speaks of a centralized authority capable of coordinating a vast, specialized workforce, from quarrymen and transporters to the final assembly team. In the known archaeological record of the Americas, this level of systematic, industrialized planning is without parallel. It suggests a society operating under a grand, coherent vision, one where architecture was not built stone by stone, but engineered system by system. The ruins we see today are not merely a fallen temple. They are the disassembled pieces of a grand machine we are still trying to understand, a machine whose ultimate function remains the final and perhaps greatest mystery of all. The scattered stones of Puma Punku rest in a field of high-altitude grass, silent and stark against the sky. But if you look past the monumental puzzle pieces themselves, you will notice something equally puzzling and absent. This is the eighth mystery, the profound lack of debris and tool evidence. At any other major ancient construction site, from the quarries of Egypt to the temples of Rome, the ground is littered with the physical story of its making. You find piles of stone chippings, fragments of broken tools, half-finished blocks rejected for flaws, and the clear outlines of workshops. These are the fingerprints of the builders, the messy, human evidence of trial and error. At Puma Punku, that evidence is almost entirely missing. The site is eerily clean. Where are the mountains of andesite shavings from carving those intricate channels? Where are the shattered bronze chisels, worn down from a futile battle against the volcanic stone? The sheer scale of work implied by the remaining megaliths should have generated a corresponding mountain of waste material, yet archaeologists have found remarkably little. This void is deafening. It tells us that the story we expect to find of generations of laborers painstakingly pounding and grinding these blocks into shape may be the wrong story entirely. The clean site suggests one of two radical possibilities. The first is that the builders employed a different, cleaner technology. Some researchers point to the possibility of a lost method, perhaps involving chemical agents or specialized heat treatment, that could cut and shape andesite with surgical precision, leaving minimal rubble. The second possibility is just as thought-provoking, a systematic and thorough cleanup. This would imply that the process itself, the knowledge of how it was done, was considered so valuable or so sacred that every trace of it was deliberately removed from the site, leaving only the perfect, inscrutable products behind. This evidentiary vacuum is what fuels so many alternative theories, and more importantly, it presents a genuine challenge to mainstream historical models. Archaeology builds its narratives on physical evidence, on the tools, the waste, the workshops. When those clues are absent, the narrative remains incomplete, a puzzle with the central pieces deliberately withheld. We are left with the masterful results but none of the intermediate steps, forcing us to ask not just how they built it, but why they were so careful to hide the very act of building. The silence of the site, that profound absence of tools and debris, forces us to ask a foundational question. Who exactly were the builders? Mainstream archaeology points us toward the Tiwanaku, a civilization that flourished on the high plains surrounding Lake Titicaca. Emerging as a significant cultural force around the year 500, the Tiwanaku state is celebrated for its remarkable achievements. They mastered the harsh altiplano environment, developing raised field agriculture that turned marshy ground into fertile farmland capable of supporting a large population. Their society was deeply spiritual, centered around a sophisticated religion with powerful deities, and they demonstrated advanced knowledge of astronomy, aligning their monuments to celestial events. By conventional dating, the construction of Puma Punku is placed within their golden age between 500 and 1000. On the surface, this seems like a perfect fit, a grand architectural project for a grand civilization. Yet, when you look closer, a jarring inconsistency emerges. The stonework at the main Tiwanaku capital, just a short distance away, is impressive, but it follows a recognizable ancient pattern. The stones are large, beautifully fitted, and carved with intricate iconography, but you can see the tool marks. The joins, while tight, are not seamless. The blocks are not standardized. It is masterful craftsmanship, the kind we can understand evolving over generations. Then you walk to Puma Punku. Here, the language of construction changes completely. The seamless joins, the modular design, the machined surfaces, the micro-precision, it represents a quantum leap in technology. This creates a cultural and technological paradox that sits at the heart of the debate. How could one civilization possess two such vastly different, almost incompatible, levels of engineering philosophy? It is as if the same culture that built elegant cathedrals with hand tools also secretly constructed a microchip fabrication plant. The disparity is so great that it forces a difficult choice. Either the Tiwanaku possessed a secret, highly advanced school of engineering used only for this one site, a knowledge that left no trace in their other works and was then completely lost. Or the timeline we have accepted is missing a crucial chapter. This paradox does not diminish the Tiwanaku, a people of undeniable sophistication. Instead, it highlights that the story of Puma Punku might be more layered than a single attribution can explain. The stones themselves seem to whisper of a different kind of knowledge, one that challenges the smooth narrative of history and points toward a mystery woven deep into the fabric of the Altiplano. The paradox between Tiwanaku's main site and Puma Punku forces a direct question. How does mainstream archaeology reconcile this staggering technological leap? The conventional answer rests on three pillars: patience, skill, and simple tools. This explanation paints a picture of a society with a deep, generational dedication to a sacred project. According to this widely accepted view, the Tiwanaku artisans did not possess lost technology. They possessed something perhaps equally powerful: an immense reserve of time and coordinated labor. The tools, scholars suggest, were the same found across the ancient world: stone hammers made of even harder rock to fracture the andesite, bronze chisels for finer work, and abundant sand and water used as a relentless abrasive. The process would have been one of grinding persistence. Craftsmen would have patiently pecked away at the stone's surface, then spent untold hours rubbing sand back and forth with stone or wooden blocks, slowly wearing the andesite down, micron by micron, into those smooth planes. Experiments have indeed demonstrated that this method can shape andesite. Given enough time, a dedicated team could theoretically create a flat surface or even a simple groove. The argument is one of scale and social organization, that a theocratic state could marshal a large, specialized workforce over many generations, turning a holy site into a centuries-long communal endeavor. This view focuses on the how of basic shaping, and it is a compelling narrative of human perseverance. It connects Puma Punku to other ancient wonders, all testaments to what can be achieved with collective will and simple mechanics. Yet, when we hold this theory against the stones themselves, a significant gap emerges. The challenge is not merely shaping the stone, but controlling the shape with such extraordinary precision. How does a team using hand-held abrasives maintain a perfectly flat plane across a surface several meters long, or cut a channel with a depth that does not vary by even a millimeter from end to end? How do they ensure that dozens of separate H-blocks have identical, complex geometries, with interlocking joints that would require perfect alignment to function? The patience theory explains the action, but it struggles to explain the repeatable, industrial-grade accuracy. It accounts for the sculpture, but not the engineering. This gap between a plausible method and the phenomenal result is where the mystery breathes, a space just wide enough for other, more speculative ideas to take root and grow. The gap between simple tools and perfect results is a void that human curiosity naturally seeks to fill. This leads us to the first major alternative theory attempting to explain Puma Punku, the idea of a lost ancient high technology. This perspective steps outside conventional timelines to propose a radical possibility. What if the precision we see is not a testament to patience alone, but a literal artifact of machinery? Proponents of this view look at the smooth surfaces, the perfect drill holes, and the modular design, and they see fingerprints not of bronze chisels, but of advanced engineering. They suggest the builders may have used technologies we are only now rediscovering, methods that leave few traditional traces. Some speculate about tools that employed precise vibrations or focused sound waves to cut stone, a concept similar to modern ultrasonic machining. Others point to the uncanny consistency of the stone and propose it might not be natural andesite at all, but a form of ancient geopolymer, a man-made stone cast in molds to achieve those flawless shapes. This theory often connects to a broader narrative found in many world cultures, the myth of a great cycle, a golden age followed by a cataclysmic reset. In this view, Puma Punku is not a Tiwanaku creation, but a legacy. It becomes the work of a far older, now forgotten civilization that possessed a sophisticated understanding of materials and physics, a knowledge wiped clean by some immense natural event or the slow erosion of time. The Tiwanaku, then, would have been inheritors, not inventors. They might have found these exquisitely crafted stones scattered across the landscape and incorporated them into their own sacred site, awed by, and perhaps not fully understanding the technology they were reusing. While this idea is undeniably captivating, a story that appeals to our sense of wonder and mystery, it exists in a challenging space. Mainstream archaeology notes the stark absence of corroborating evidence, no tool fragments, no workshop remains, no geological signs of casting or chemical processing that would support such advanced methods. It remains for now in the realm of intriguing speculation, yet its true value may not be in providing a definitive answer, but in the question it forces us to confront. It challenges the completeness of our historical record, reminding us that history is not just what we have found, but also what we have lost. It asks us to remain humble in the face of the past, to acknowledge that some chapters may be missing entirely, leaving behind only enigmatic monuments that whisper of possibilities we are still learning to hear. While the lost technology theory challenges our timeline, another explanation ventures far beyond it. This second alternative theory is the most controversial, suggesting the involvement of beings not of this earth. For some, the precision of Puma Punku is so alien to our understanding of ancient human capability that its creation must be attributed to outside agents, to an extraterrestrial or non-human intelligence that shared advanced knowledge with a chosen people. This narrative finds fertile ground in the site's stark, geometric aesthetic, which feels more like a circuit board or a machine component than a traditional temple. Its precise alignments with solstices and celestial events are seen not just as astronomical observation, but as potential navigation markers or signals for visitors from the stars. In popular media, this idea has taken on a life of its own, framing the builders as ancient astronauts who provided the blueprint for a marvel the local culture could never have conceived on its own. For mainstream academics and archaeologists, however, this theory represents a fundamental dead end. It is not merely speculative, it is seen as dismissive. It effectively removes human agency, ingenuity, and resilience from the historical equation, handing our ancestors' greatest achievements to an outside force. This perspective argues that such an explanation does not solve the mystery, it simply ends the conversation. It serves less as a testable hypothesis and more as a cultural mirror, reflecting our own modern fascination with the unknown and a sometimes subconscious desire for easy, miraculous answers to deeply complex questions. Yet, even in its extreme form, this theory performs a valuable service. It underscores just how profound the gap truly is between what we believe ancient people could do and what the stones of Puma Punku demonstrably are. When conventional explanations feel insufficient, the human mind stretches toward the extraordinary, seeking frameworks that can contain the evidence before our eyes. The very existence of such a radical idea highlights the magnetic power of the site's enigma, a mystery so compelling it can inspire narratives that leap across the stars. It forces us to ask what we are truly more uncomfortable with, the idea of a forgotten chapter in human history, or the idea that our ancestors might have been far more capable than our textbooks have ever allowed. The stones themselves are silent, but what if they were shaped by sound? A third, more grounded yet deeply speculative theory shifts the focus from physical tools to invisible forces, exploring the potential use of advanced acoustic or vibrational techniques. This idea proposes that the builders of Puma Punku might have mastered a lost science of resonance, using specific sound frequencies to interact with stone in extraordinary ways. The principle is not pure fantasy. Modern ultrasonic machining uses high-frequency vibrations to cut hard, brittle materials with exceptional precision, leaving smooth, polished surfaces. Could an ancient civilization have discovered a similar principle? Some researchers suggest that by finding the resonant frequency of andesite, perhaps using large, tuned drums or singing stones, they could have induced a state where the material became temporarily malleable, easier to shape or even liquefy at the point of contact. This could theoretically explain the glass-like finishes and those perplexing, tool-mark-free surfaces. It offers a potential answer for how they achieved such control, not through brute force, but through a harmonic understanding of matter itself. Historical anecdotes from other cultures lend a whisper of plausibility to this idea. Legends from various traditions speak of sound being used to levitate or move massive stones during construction, stories often dismissed as myth. But what if they are fragmented memories of a real, applied physics? Applied to Puma Punku, an acoustic technology would leave almost no physical evidence behind, no piles of chipped stone or broken tools, which aligns eerily with the site's clean condition. The complex geometric cuts and channels could have been guided by standing waves or resonant patterns, a form of sonic templating. While direct experimental evidence for such a capability in antiquity remains scant, this theory does something important. It connects Puma Punku to a broader, tantalizing inquiry into the lost acoustic sciences of the ancient world. From the resonant chambers of pyramids to the sonic properties of certain megalithic sites, there are hints that past cultures understood the power of sound in ways we are only beginning to measure and appreciate. This perspective does not require alien intervention or forgotten machines, but it does demand we credit the builders with a profound, almost intuitive grasp of natural forces, a physics of vibration that turned sound into the most precise tool of all. The silence of those perfectly cut stones is surrounded by chaos. Walk through the field of Puma Punku today, and your eyes are pulled in two conflicting directions. You see the exquisite precision of a single block, then you look up to see the entire site in a state of violent disarray. Massive andesite slabs lie tossed and tumbled like a child's building blocks after a tantrum, some driven vertically into the earth, others flung dozens of meters from their logical positions. This is not the gentle decay of time. This scene suggests a force of unimaginable power. Many geologists and archaeologists studying the region point to a compelling explanation: a natural cataclysm. The Altiplano is a landscape shaped by immense geological forces, sitting atop a network of active faults. Evidence suggests the area has experienced earthquakes of staggering magnitude, events that could easily topple even the most ingeniously interlocked structures. Another leading theory points to Lake Titicaca itself. Sediment cores and shoreline studies indicate the possibility of a catastrophic paleo flood, a sudden, massive surge of water bursting from the lake's ancient shores, scouring the landscape with the force of a tidal wave. This cataclysm theory fundamentally reframes the mystery of Puma Punku. It proposes the site was not unfinished or abandoned. It was completed, a masterpiece of modular engineering standing in perfect functional harmony. Then, in a single day or night of terror, it was hit. The floodwaters or tremors would have attacked the structure at its weakest point, the joints. While the individual blocks were incredibly strong, the connections between them, however precise, would have been the first to fail under such extreme lateral force. The cataclysm would have shattered the architectural logic, popping the stones from their interlocking slots and scattering them across the plain. This perspective asks us to see the ruins not as a construction site, but as a frozen moment of destruction. The precision we marvel at today is therefore a dual mystery. It speaks to an astonishing act of creation, and it also serves as a precise record of a devastating act of nature. The stones are not merely cut, they are forensically displaced. Their current positions and angles could, in theory, tell the story of the force that moved them, like clues at the scene of a monumental event. This shifts our questions from simply how did they build this to what was it before it fell, and what unimaginable power was required to bring it down. It transforms the site from a puzzle of assembly into a snapshot of a single, catastrophic moment that effectively froze this advanced technology in time, leaving it for us to find not as a functioning machine, but as a collection of scattered components, their original purpose obscured by the very violence that preserved them in such a state of eloquent ruin. The cataclysm that scattered the stones may have frozen the structure, but it could not erase its alignment with the sky. Look beyond the toppled blocks, and you will find a different kind of precision etched into the very orientation of the site. Puma Punku is not randomly placed upon the altiplano. Its central platform and the gateways that once stood upon it are aligned with an accuracy that mirrors the stonework itself, oriented precisely to the four cardinal directions. This is no accident of landscape. It is a deliberate, calculated choice. Archaeoastronomers who study the site believe these alignments were designed to interact with celestial events, particularly the solstices, those pivotal moments when the sun reaches its highest and lowest points in the sky. The precision of the stone cutting finds its echo in the precision of celestial observation. This suggests the builders were not merely engineers, they were cosmologists. Their obsession with perfect angles and flawless surfaces may have served a purpose far greater than architectural stability. It could mean Puma Punku was conceived as a cosmological machine, a temple designed to bring the orderly mechanics of the heavens down to earth. Think of it as a giant stone calendar and observatory fused into one. The perfectly flat surfaces could have acted as reflective pools for starlight, or as stable bases for sighting instruments. The precise angles might have framed the rising sun on a specific day, casting shadows that traveled along engineered channels to mark the passage of time. In this view, the technological mastery was not an end in itself, but a means to a spiritual and intellectual imperative. The engineering perfection was necessary to create a physical manifestation of their astronomical understanding, a place where the divine order of the cosmos could be measured, celebrated, and perhaps even influenced. This perspective beautifully integrates the how with the why. It proposes that the driving force behind this staggering feat of engineering was a profound ideological vision, a desire to build a permanent, unchanging conduit between the human world and the celestial realm. The stones had to be perfect because the heavens they mirrored were considered perfect. This transforms our understanding of the site from a mere puzzle of construction into a profound statement of belief, where every cut, every angle, and every alignment was a sacred act, a prayer solidified in andesite. That celestial vision of a perfect cosmological machine begs a crucial question: just how unique was this achievement? To truly gauge the singularity of Puma Punku, we must place it alongside the other legendary feats of ancient engineering: the Great Pyramids of Egypt, the mighty walls of Sacsayhuaman, the breathtaking terraces of Machu Picchu. Each of these sites represents the pinnacle of its culture's building prowess, yet when we compare their methods and their signatures, the distinct philosophy of Puma Punku comes into sharp, almost startling relief. Take the Egyptian pyramids. Their genius lies in monumental scale and celestial alignment. The sheer mass of quarried stone, the logistical triumph of moving millions of blocks, the precise orientation to the cardinal points, these accomplishments speak to a society capable of grand, centralized planning over generations. The stonework itself, while impressive, is about creating a stable, solid mass. The blocks are large, often roughly shaped on the inside and fitted with mortar. The perfection is in the external form and the astronomical intent, not necessarily in the microscopic finish of every single stone. Then look to the Inca. Their masterpieces at sites like Sacsayhuaman and Ollantaytambo showcase a different kind of brilliance, the art of fitting. They worked with massive, irregularly shaped polygonal stones, painstakingly shaping each one to lock perfectly with its neighbors in a complex jigsaw puzzle fashion. The joins are so tight you cannot slip a piece of paper between them, a testament to incredible skill and patience. but again, each stone is unique, a custom solution for its specific place in the wall. The beauty is in the organic, interlocking fit. Now, return your gaze to the andesite blocks scattered across the Bolivian Altiplano. Here, the philosophy shifts dramatically. This is not about unique, puzzle piece fitting or building a solid mass. This is about standardization. The H blocks are not one-of-a-kind sculptures, they are identical components. The complex channels and T-slots are not improvised, they are repeated, precise features. The surfaces are not simply smooth where they touch, they are flawlessly flat and polished on all sides. This is the signature of a different mindset entirely. Where others crafted custom masterpieces, the builders of Puma Punku appear to have been creating a kit of parts. Their focus was on modularity, on interchangeable components that could be assembled and potentially even disassembled. This points toward an engineering philosophy obsessed with systems, with repeatable processes, and with a machined aesthetic that feels more industrial than artisanal. This comparative analysis does not diminish the wonders of Giza or Cusco. It simply isolates the unique technological fingerprint of Puma Punku. It stands apart not necessarily as better, but as profoundly different, a whisper of a manufacturing logic that seems to belong to another chapter of human ingenuity altogether. Amid the cold geometry of those perfect stones, another language emerges. Look closely at the surface of certain sandstone blocks, and you will find them adorned with carved figures, weathered by centuries of wind and rain but still telling their own story. These are the iconic images of the Tiwanaku world, often called the staff god or the chachapumas, the stone pumas. They depict a central deity holding vertical staffs, flanked by running feline figures, symbols of power and connection to the spirit world. Their presence is a vital clue, a cultural signature etched directly onto the architectural canvas. What makes this juxtaposition so compelling is the stark contrast in style. The andesite components, the H blocks and interlocking pieces, are devoid of any imagery. Their beauty is in their silent, mathematical perfection. The sandstone foundations, however, become the medium for traditional, stylized art. This creates a fascinating architectural dichotomy. It suggests a deliberate design philosophy where the ultra-precise, modular framework served as a neutral, impeccable stage. Upon this engineered stage, the spiritual narrative was then performed through symbolic carvings. The flawless joints and perfect planes were not the final statement. They were the preparation, creating a stable, eternal foundation for sacred iconography. Think of it like a master clockmaker building a perfect brass movement with gears cut to micrometer tolerances. That movement is then housed in an ornate case decorated with beautiful engravings. Both are essential, but they serve different purposes, one technical, the other symbolic and cultural. At Puma Punku, the engineering was the sacred movement, and the carvings were its ornate face. Decoding these symbols, therefore, is not separate from understanding the precision. It is the key to its purpose. The site emerges not as a sterile factory, but as a profound nexus. It was a place where technical mastery and deep religious belief were fused into a single vision. The engineering guaranteed the structure's permanence, a fitting vessel for eternal spiritual truths. The iconography gave meaning to that permanence, explaining why such impossible effort was necessary. The stones had to be perfect because they were meant to hold the gods. The carvings tell us why they built, but the stones themselves ask how. In recent decades, a fascinating pursuit has emerged, not in dusty libraries, but in workshops and yards around the world. Skilled stonemasons and dedicated researchers have taken up the challenge, attempting to recreate the precision of Puma Punku, using only the tools and materials presumed available to the Tiwanaku. Armed with stone hammers, bronze chisels, sand, water, and immense patience, they set out to prove it could be done. The results of these modern replication experiments are deeply illuminating. yet they consistently reveal a sobering gap. A craftsman can, over many months of relentless work, shape a block of andesite into a rough form. They can grind a surface to a relative smoothness. What proves nearly impossible to replicate is the industrial-grade consistency, the flawless flatness across a meter-long plane, or the perfect 90-degree interior angles that interlock without a whisper of a gap. The channels and complex joints, when attempted with hand-guided abrasives, show telltale wavering, variations in depth, and a lack of the crisp, machined edges found on the originals. These experiments are not failures, they are vital data points. They demonstrate that while the basic principle of abrasion is sound, the application of that principle to achieve the specific results at Puma Punku requires something more. It demands a level of control, a repeatable guiding system, and an efficiency of effort that simple hand tools struggle to provide on such a scale. Think of trying to paint a perfectly straight, hair-thin line across a canvas using only a large brush held at arm's length. You might get close with heroic effort, but you could never achieve the uniformity of a line drawn with a ruler and a fine pen. The modern attempts highlight the monumental difference between what is theoretically possible given infinite time and what was practically achieved within the realistic lifespan of a civilization. They do not disprove the conventional patience theory, but they dramatically underscore its immense, almost superhuman difficulty. These respectful efforts force a humble acknowledgement. The builders of Puma Punku possessed either a mastery of their simple tools that borders on the transcendent, or they employed a methodology we have yet to fully comprehend. Each modern stone shaped by sweat and sand becomes a quiet testament to the original mystery, a whisper that the puzzle is far from solved. The high-altitude air of the Altiplano is thin and sharp, a constant presence that shapes everything it touches. Puma Punku sits at nearly 13,000 feet above sea level, a height where the atmosphere holds less than half the oxygen found at sea level. This extreme environment is not merely a backdrop, it is an active character in the story, a force that has both preserved the enigma and deepened its complexity. The very factors that make this landscape so challenging to inhabit are the same ones that have safeguarded the stones for centuries. The intense ultraviolet radiation from the sun, unfiltered by the thin air, and the cycle of freezing nighttime temperatures followed by daytime thaw, have combined to create a surprisingly effective preservative. Unlike sites in humid jungles or temperate valleys, Puma Punku has not been swallowed by relentless vegetation or worn smooth by constant water erosion. The precise cuts, the sharp edges of the T-slots, the crisp lines of the geometric channels all remain startlingly clear, as if the workshop closed only decades ago rather than a millennium or more. The dry, cold climate has acted like a natural museum, locking the stones in a state of suspended animation and giving researchers an unusually pristine canvas on which to study the builder's handiwork. Yet, this preservative environment also imposes brutal constraints that any credible theory of construction must confront. The altitude presents a profound physiological challenge. For modern visitors, even a slow walk across the site can leave one breathless and fatigued. Now, envision the scale of labor required to move 100-ton blocks of andesite across kilometers of this terrain, to lift them, to shape them with relentless precision. The conventional model of a massive workforce toiling for generations becomes even more staggering under these conditions. Sustaining a large population of laborers at this altitude, ensuring their nutrition and health for such a monumental project, adds a layer of logistical difficulty that borders on the heroic. This harsh reality leads to an inevitable and compelling question. Did the builders possess not only advanced engineering knowledge, but also a physiological adaptation or specialized knowledge of high-altitude endurance that we have underestimated? Or does the extreme environment point toward a different construction timeline or methodology altogether, one that required a smaller, more specialized crew working with greater efficiency. The altitude forces us to recalibrate our understanding of human capability. It suggests that the achievement of Puma Punku was not just a triumph of mind over matter, but of biology over environment, a testament to a resilience that is as mysterious as the stonework itself. The environment, therefore, is far from a neutral stage. It is a silent witness that has preserved the evidence while simultaneously raising the stakes of the mystery, ensuring that every theory must prove itself not just against the stones, but against the very sky that holds them. The harsh climate preserved the stones, but it could not protect them from human hands. Long after the site fell silent and the great cataclysm scattered its components, a new chapter of loss began. For centuries, the local landscape viewed the scattered precision of Puma Punku not as an archaeological treasure, but as a convenient and superior quarry. Its stones, already cut with a perfection unattainable by later generations, were simply too good to leave lying in the field. This systematic plunder represents a quiet, historical tragedy that has profoundly deepened the mystery. Throughout the colonial period and well into the modern era, those perfectly fitted andesite blocks were prized building material. They were hauled away to form foundations for churches in nearby towns, used as sturdy railroad ties for the expanding Bolivian railway, and incorporated into the walls of homes and farmsteads. Imagine a master sculptor's marble masterpiece being broken apart to patch a road. That is the scale of the loss. Each stone that was carted off was not merely a piece of rock, it was a critical component of a grand architectural system. Every H-block that became a doorstep, every polished slab that was turned into a bridge abutment, represented a stolen piece of the puzzle. This dispersal means that what we see today at the site is merely a fraction, a sad remnant of the original complex. It is as if we are trying to understand a magnificent clock by studying only a handful of its scattered gears, while the rest have been melted down for scrap. The original layout, the full scope of the interlocking design, the complete functional purpose of the structure, all have become exponentially harder to decipher. Our entire understanding is built upon a fragmented sample, making any attempt at reconstruction an exercise in educated guesswork. This history forces us to see Puma Punku as a palimpsest, an ancient manuscript that has been scraped clean and written over by time. The original text, the brilliant engineering of the first builders, is faint and incomplete. Overlaying it are the marks of natural disaster, and then the heavy handwriting of centuries of reuse and removal. To understand the original genius, we must first peel back these layers of loss, acknowledging that the true grandeur of the site exists now only in the negative space, in the haunting absence of the stones that are gone. This realization does not diminish the wonder of what remains, it amplifies it. It asks us to look at the scattered pieces and envision not just a fallen building, but a stolen legacy, a ghost of a machine whose true shape and purpose may forever hover just beyond our reach. This systematic removal of stones across centuries makes the task of understanding the original structure seem almost hopeless. Yet, in a beautiful twist of fate, the very technology that defines our modern world now offers a way to digitally reverse that loss. Archaeologists and engineers are no longer limited to measuring tapes and sketches. Today, they wield tools like 3D laser scanners and advanced photogrammetry. These instruments work by capturing millions of precise data points from every surface, every angle, every cut and groove on the scattered stones. They create a flawless digital twin of each fragment, a virtual replica accurate to within a fraction of a millimeter. This process is meticulous and non-invasive, a way of preserving the site in a state far more permanent than stone itself. Once every block is digitized, the real magic begins. Researchers can enter a virtual workspace, a boundless digital plane where the laws of physics are suggestions. Here, they can lift the 100-ton andesite H-blocks with a click, rotating them in three-dimensional space, testing fits and connections that would be impossible to physically attempt on the ground. They can virtually slot a complex joint into its matching T-shaped groove, listening for the digital click of perfect alignment. This is more than just a high-tech puzzle. It is a form of experimental archaeology conducted in the realm of pure data. By testing thousands of potential configurations, the digital model can reveal the architectural logic that guided the builders. It might show that certain channels align to direct water in a specific ritual pattern, or that a series of blocks, when assembled, create a perfect acoustic chamber designed to amplify specific frequencies. The technology can highlight where patterns or subtle directional marks on the stone that are invisible to the human eye, clues to how the blocks were moved and set into place. This modern precision, applied to ancient precision, builds a bridge across the centuries. We are using our most advanced tools of measurement and simulation to engage in a silent dialogue with theirs. It represents a shift from speculation toward evidence-based reconstruction. While it may never tell us exactly how they cut the stone, it can show us with increasing clarity what they were building. Each digital connection made, each virtual assembly completed, is a step toward pulling the ghost of Puma Punku back from the void, giving form to the magnificent machine that once was. The digital reconstruction offers a glimpse of the machine, but to understand its soul, we must listen to the voices that have never left this landscape. For the Aymara people, whose ancestors have lived in the shadow of these stones for countless generations, Puma Punku is not a ruin to be solved. It is a waka, a sacred living entity, a place of immense spiritual power woven directly into the fabric of the world. This perspective fundamentally reorients our inquiry. Where Western analysis dissects the how, Aymara tradition illuminates the why. Their oral histories, passed down through an unbroken chain of memory, do not speak of construction techniques. They speak of origin. Some traditions tell of a time when the stones were not built, but were born from the earth itself, emerging fully formed in a single night during a great awakening of the world. Others describe it as a place of beginning where the first people were brought into being, or as a celestial portal used by ancestral spirits. In this worldview, the precision of the stonework is not evidence of lost technology, but a physical manifestation of sacred order. The perfect angles mirror the harmony of the cosmos. The flawless surfaces reflect the clarity of spiritual insight, and the alignments with the solstices are not merely astronomical observations, but active conversations with the sun and moon, the divine parents in Andean cosmology. This shifts the entire frame of reference. The site is not an isolated engineering project. It is a vital node in a spiritual geography. It is connected through sightlines, ritual pathways, and mythic narratives to other mountains, springs, and ancient places across the Altiplano, all part of a living, breathing landscape imbued with consciousness. To ask why it was built here is to ask why a heart is placed in the center of a body. The location was not chosen for logistical convenience, but because this specific point on the Earth held a unique concentration of energy, a confluence of telluric and celestial forces. The builders, then, were not just engineers, they were intermediaries. Their staggering technical mastery was an act of devotion, a way of giving physical, enduring form to a sacred understanding of the universe's structure. They were not cutting stone, they were revealing a pre-existing divine geometry, listening to the land and carving what it asked them to reveal. This viewpoint does not invalidate the technological mystery, it envelops it in a deeper meaning. It suggests that the driving force behind such impossible perfection was not a desire to showcase skill, but a profound obligation to create a fitting home for the sacred, a bridge between worlds that had to be flawless to function. To ignore this living cultural context is to study a musical score without ever hearing the music. The stones hold their silence, but the land and the people who belong to it still remember the song. The silent perfection of those stones was not achieved in a vacuum. It was the final, gleaming product of a vast and intricate social machine. To grasp the full scope of the Puma Punku mystery, we must shift our gaze from the engineering itself to the civilization that made it possible. Constructing a site of this complexity over what was likely generations demanded more than brilliant architects. It required a society operating at an extraordinary level of economic and logistical organization. This was not a project built by occasional volunteers. It would have required a dedicated, full-time workforce of specialized roles, master engineers who designed the templates, skilled quarrymen who understood the stone, teams of transporters who moved the impossible weights, and the builders who executed the final assembly with flawless precision. Each of these specialists needed to be fed, housed, and supported day after day, year after year. This simple fact leads us to a profound implication. The Tiwanaku state must have achieved a remarkable agricultural surplus. In the harsh environment of the Altiplano, this is a monumental achievement in itself. Their famous raised field system, a network of canals and planting platforms, was a feat of hydrological and agricultural engineering that turned the marshy shores of Lake Titicaca into a breadbasket. This bounty did more than prevent hunger. It created the very possibility of specialization. It freed a significant portion of the population from the daily work of farming, allowing them to become the full-time artisans and laborers behind Puma Punku. The food surplus was the fuel for the entire operation, but feeding the workforce was only the first logistical hurdle. Consider the supply chain. The andesite blocks came from a quarry over 10 kilometers away. This journey required more than just strong backs. It required roads or prepared pathways, a steady supply of ropes and levering materials, and a system for moving these multi-ton loads across rugged terrain. Simultaneously, other supply lines were needed, bringing food from the farmlands to the construction site, providing tools, and managing living quarters for the workers. The coordination is staggering to contemplate. It speaks to a highly centralized administration, a governing body capable of long-term planning, resource allocation, and labor management on a scale comparable to a modern nation-state. This level of organization transforms our understanding of the Tiwanaku. They were not just a spiritual culture that built a temple. They were a sophisticated political and economic power, a society that could marshal its people and its resources toward a single, monumental goal that spanned lifetimes. When we estimate the potential scale of this workforce, even using conservative numbers, the picture becomes one of immense social cohesion. Hundreds, perhaps thousands of individuals, all working in coordinated harmony toward a vision they might never see completed. The stones, then, are not merely artifacts of lost technology. They are the physical manifestation of a social contract, of a shared belief so powerful it could organize an entire civilization around the act of creation. This reveals that the deepest mystery of Puma Punku is twofold, a puzzle of impossible engineering wrapped inside an equally profound puzzle of human collaboration. The true wonder may not be how they cut the stone, but how they convinced so many to dedicate their lives to the dream of perfection. That social machine, capable of organizing thousands, has left behind a silent, scattered blueprint. So where do we go from here? The future of unraveling Puma Punku's secrets lies not in speculation, but in a new wave of scientific inquiry, one that peers beneath the surface and into the microscopic world. The next chapter of this mystery will be written by technology and interdisciplinary collaboration. One of the most promising avenues is subsurface surveying. The ground we walk on at the site may hold the keys to the workshop. Using tools like ground-penetrating radar, researchers can scan deep into the earth without moving a single stone. This technology sends radar pulses downward, creating a three-dimensional map of buried structures, voids, or even the foundations of lost buildings. Imagine discovering the outlines of the actual fabrication yard, the place where those perfect templates were stored and used. Finding such a workshop would be a revolution, offering a direct window into the construction process itself. Alongside this, material science offers another path. Advanced spectrometry and microscopic analysis can examine the andesite at a level invisible to the human eye. Scientists can search for residues, infinitesimal traces left behind by the cutting process. Were there chemical agents, plant-based compounds that temporarily softened the stone? Are there microscopic polish marks that reveal the direction and type of abrasion used? The stone itself might still hold the forensic evidence of its own shaping, a chemical fingerprint waiting to be read. This work cannot be done by archaeologists alone. It demands a fusion of minds, geologists who understand the stone's properties, materials engineers who can interpret wear patterns, and archaeologists who provide cultural context. Each unanswered question acts as a compass for this new research. The complete absence of tool marks is not a dead end. It is a directive to look for evidence of a different kind of tool. The logistical puzzle of moving the blocks guides studies into ancient soil compaction and potential transport routes. Even the purpose of the complex drives investigations into archaeoacoustics, testing whether the precise geometry created specific sound environments. Puma Punku is an open book, but many of its most important pages are still buried, either literally underground or encoded in the atomic structure of the stone. The future promises a slow, meticulous turning of those pages through non-invasive science. It is a future that moves beyond debate and toward data, where each scan and each lab analysis adds another sentence to a story we are only beginning to comprehend. The most compelling revelations about this enigma may still be waiting, not in the past but in the tools of our future. The scattered stones of Puma Punku do more than puzzle archaeologists. They challenge our deepest assumptions about the human story. We often view history as a steady, upward climb, a linear march from simple tools to complex machines, where each generation builds on the knowledge of the last. This site stands as a stark rebuke to that comforting narrative. What if history is not a single, unbroken line, but a series of peaks and valleys? What if a civilization can ascend to a breathtaking height of technological and artistic mastery, only for that knowledge to vanish, swallowed by time, disaster, or social collapse, leaving behind only silent, enigmatic monuments as proof it ever existed? Puma Punku forces us to consider this unsettling possibility. It suggests that the timeline of human ingenuity may be punctuated by resets, where advanced understanding is not merely improved upon, but is sometimes completely lost, forcing a later culture to rediscover principles from scratch. This is a humbling lesson. It asks us to look at our own sprawling technological civilization, with its digital networks and global systems, and to question its permanence. Our knowledge is stored on servers, in books, in institutions, but how fragile is that inheritance really? Puma Punku whispers that no achievement, no matter how precise or monumental, is immune to the erosive forces of time. In one light, the site is a triumphant testament to what human minds and hands can accomplish, a celebration of ingenuity that defies its environment. In another, more sobering light, it is a cautionary tale, a monument to the profound fragility of knowledge itself. It teaches us that history is not a simple story with a clear plot. It is a vast, complex, and often fragmented puzzle. Some pieces fit neatly into the established picture. Others, like the andesite blocks with their machined perfection, are anomalies. They are pieces from a different puzzle box altogether, or perhaps from a page of the instruction manual we never received. Their very existence compels us to re-examine the board, to question the image we thought we were assembling. The greatest gift of Puma Punku, then, may not be an answer but a perpetual question. It is a place that refuses to be categorized, that resists easy placement in our textbooks, and in doing so, it ensures the search for understanding never truly ends. The theories and timelines dissolve in the thin air the moment you arrive. To understand Puma Punku, you must first feel it. The high-altitude sun is brilliant but offers little warmth against a wind that seems to flow directly from the past, cold and constant. The sky is an immense, empty blue, a dome that makes the scattered stones below look both monumental and strangely small. You walk across the dry grass, and the first thing that strikes you is not the complexity, but the sheer, blunt weight of it all. These are not delicate artifacts behind glass. They are massive physical presences, some taller than a person, lying at chaotic angles as if tossed by a giant's hand. The scale is humbling, a visceral reminder that you are in the presence of work that required superhuman effort. Then you step closer and reach out. Your fingers brush the surface of an andesite block. The sensation is a shock. After the rough, wind-scoured landscape, the stone is unnervingly smooth, cold and sleek as polished glass. This is the moment when every abstract debate about tools and tolerances becomes real. You are touching a plane that shows no ripple, no chip, no mark of a tool. It is a perfect, silent plane created over 1,000 years ago. The disconnect is immediate and profound. Your mind knows this should feel ancient, pitted, and worn by centuries. Your senses report something entirely different, something that feels almost modern in its flawless finish. This tactile contradiction is the heart of the mystery, made physical. People do not just observe Puma Punku, they experience it. Visitors often speak of a quiet disorientation, a sense that the rules of history have been subtly suspended here. The awe is not merely at the size, but at the silence. The stones offer no story, no narrative of their making. They simply are. This can produce a deep, wordless feeling, a mixture of wonder and a faint, intellectual vertigo. You find yourself running a hand along a perfect 90-degree interior corner, tracing a geometric channel cut with laser-like straightness, and the questions cease to be academic. They become personal. How is this here, who stood where I am standing and saw this same perfection? This direct encounter transforms the site from an archaeological puzzle into a profound human experience. It bridges the centuries in a single, silent moment. You are no longer a distant observer of history. You are a participant in its ongoing mystery. The wind, the cold stone, the vast sky, they connect you to the builders not through shared knowledge, but through shared sensation. You feel the same sun, the same biting wind they felt. You touch the same impossible surface they created. In that shared space, the gap of years collapses. You are left not with an answer, but with a deeper, more resonant question, one that lingers long after you leave the altiplano behind. What does it mean to stand before a work that so utterly defies your understanding of its own time? The stones do not explain, they simply endure, inviting every generation to feel the weight of the mystery for themselves. That quiet disorientation you feel on the altiplano is the true legacy of Puma Punku. We have walked through a labyrinth of precision, from the glass-smooth surfaces to the modular geometry, from the silent workshops to the scattered aftermath of an ancient cataclysm. We have weighed the theories, from generations of patient artisans to whispers of lost sciences, from celestial alignments to profound spiritual visions. Each stone, each perfect cut, acts as a mirror, reflecting back our own assumptions about history and human capability. The site steadfastly refuses to fit neatly into any one box. It is an engineering marvel without a manual, a spiritual monument built with machinist's precision. It challenges the comforting, linear narrative of progress, suggesting instead that the story of human ingenuity may be one of peaks and valleys, of brilliant light followed by long periods of forgetting. Whether born from a civilization's collective will or a more enigmatic chapter in our shared past, Puma Punku stands as a permanent question mark carved in andesite. It does not ask to be solved so much as it asks to be pondered. It invites a different kind of understanding, one rooted not in definitive answers but in enduring wonder. This is its ultimate power. It is a symbol that the past is not a closed book but an ongoing conversation, and that some of the most profound chapters are written in a language we are still learning to read. So as we step back from these stones, consider what they mean to you. Does this mystery reshape how you view the ancient world? Does it spark a new curiosity about the hidden capabilities of those who came before us? We would love to hear your perspective. Share your thoughts in the comments below, and if journeys into the unexplained resonate with you, subscribe to keep exploring with us. The world is full of stories written in stone, waiting for those willing to question, to look closer, and to wonder.